Do you get the Sunday evening blues? Does that mean that you hate your job? Do you dread Monday mornings? Well, I know where you're coming from, and in this video I am going to tell you how I quit my corporate job with nothing to go to and why it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Come Sunday evening, those blues would set in where all of a sudden I'd think, got work tomorrow. I don't want to go in. I don't like it. Do I really have to do that? My shoulders would tense, my back would stiffen up, and you'd just become anxious thinking around Monday morning. I couldn't detract myself away from the foreboding of Monday morning and that inbox icon just flashing, telling me all the work that I needed to do or perhaps that I'd put off since Friday. And as I quickly tapped my fingers over the keyboard, logging in on a Monday morning, that dread feeling would come up and I would just feel uninspired and I really didn't want to do the job at all. Does any of that ring true? Well, if it does, you're in luck, because my name is Brendan and I'm here to tell you how I quit my corporate job with nothing to go to. If I cast my mind back, the feelings that I used to get on a Sunday evening were dreadful. The feeling of anxiousness, of uncertainty, of dread, imposter syndrome. All of these things would manifest themselves in tensions across my shoulders and my back, and I just wouldn't concentrate. Why was it impossible to find a job that I loved? Why did I have to feel like I had to be somebody else? When you start out in the corporate world, you realize that you have to put in the hard yards, and it takes time to progress. I cast my mind back to when I was training to become an accountant, and I felt like I had to be somebody else. I felt like I had to conform to the environment that I was operating in. It was a big deal. It was my first proper corporate job. It was in the centre of London and the office was down by London Bridge. I put the suit on, put the tie on, I felt like $1 million. Although in fairness, the cheap suit and the slick back hair is something that I would rather forget about. But it fills you with pride. You think, yes, you put the tie on, I've got this. Not quite American Psycho territory when you're comparing business cards, but you think, yes, I'm here, right? What am I going to do? And I joined one of the big 4 accounting firms. I was going to become an accountant because, not that I wanted to be boring, but I loved working with people and helping them understand and solve problems. And to be honest, an accountant, that's what a lot of us do. We take the information, we decipher it, and we help people with their problems. But why did I hate Sunday evenings? I wanted to be excited about what I did. Was that too much to ask? But it's important to note of why do we end up in that situation. Now, if you're anything like me, I sit there and I think, I'm stuck. I don't know how. You look out into the big wide world and think, well, how do I get that job? You see people and you think, that's what I'd like to do. I can imagine it myself. I saw somebody that was doing their own startup and it just made me excited inside. I thought, well, imagine being your own boss where you could decide when you want to go for coffee or you can decide the direction of travel and you get to set the vision for the business. Yes, I know work is hard, but wouldn't that be great? Even now, it's just brought me out in goosebumps because that's still the aim. But you don't know which way to turn. There's information overload. Before the internet was what it has become today, we didn't know what the alternatives were. We didn't know that there was a different way of doing it. We get told very early on, work hard at school and pass your exams. If you want to go to university, get a good degree. Once you've got your degree, get a good job. Work hard, get another job. Work hard, get another job. Work hard, get another job. Retire, die. Tell you what, that sucks, but that's it. That's the career route. But what happens if you don't know which way to turn? I'd sit there on a Sunday evening, scratching my head, just thinking there's got to be more to life than this. In fact, I even looked forward to Monday morning once, and that didn't really work either. So what was at stake? For me, it was about not having regrets. Wouldn't it be great to look back and think, I wish I hadn't, as opposed to, I wish I had? In fact, I was talking to a good friend the other day from school and he managed to build a business and sell it on and is now reaping the rewards of that. Yes, it was unbelievably hard, but even just talking to him, you could hear the enthusiasm and the passion that he brought to it. And we talk about having the phrase of jam now or more jam later, and that's all around working hard now for something in the future, in much the same way that the book Rich Dad Poor Dad says. Being an employee and being a business owner is the difference between financial freedom and being stuck to the corporate machine, or whichever machine you have. I didn't want to be resentful of the work that I was doing. You'd see others and think, well, I want that. I could do that. That job I can do. I reckon I could be better than them. But who's going to give you a chance? Without underplaying it, this was going to be what we're going to do for the next 2, 3, 4 decades. If you're just starting out, do you really want to be doing this for the rest of your life? Hell no. That wasn't my plan. With the stakes being high and not wanting to fall into the resentful category and just being a real shit to be around, what can we do? The simple answer is asking for help. I know. That's often the answer to many of our challenges and our problems, but it's actually true. As with everything, there's usually a blog or a book or an online resource that we could use, and that makes sense. So what can you do? One thing to work out is, what does the nuclear option look like? What would life look like if everything went wrong? So let's say that you quit your job tomorrow and you didn't have any income and you really had to go back to basics. Well, for me, I could probably move back into my parents' house. Okay, not ideal, but you know what? You could end the lease on your flat, or you could move out of where you are and you could move home or move in with a friend for less rent, or perhaps even no rent. Okay, fine. You could cancel some contracts around your mobile phone. You could probably put off going on holiday for a while. You could strip back some of the going out. So if you work out what the nuclear option is, i.e. the worst case scenario, and if you look at that and think, okay, that's not so bad, then what's stopping you? If that is the worst case, and the worst case doesn't seem so bad, that's a positive, right? I'd been in my job about 15 months. And at that point, I had two options. One, I could put up, i.e. do something about it. Or two, I had to shut up, i.e. suck it up and just deal with it. Couldn't just go around bitching and moaning all the time. Which, to be quite honest, if you're in the corporate world and you don't like your job, please don't just go around telling people how much you hate it and how much you hate the company, because that actually undoes a lot of the good work that you may have done up until that point, and it just doesn't serve any good purpose. It just makes you out to be really bitter, and that's not a good look. Once I'd written out my nuclear option, I thought, duck it, let's do it. So the moment I decided that I was going to do it, I thought, shit, I need to have a bit of a plan. Can't really do these things without a plan. So I sat down, booted the computer up, opened up Word, wrote at the top, planned to leave my corporate job. What was the reasons for leaving? At this time, I was an accountant, and I knew that trying to find another job in a smaller environment where you could actually make a tangible difference was actually what I wanted to do. So I came up with the idea of creating a small recruitment company that took qualified accountants from the big corporate world and put them into the smaller environments where you could really make a tangible difference. You get involved in everything. It would be slightly different, but there didn't seem to be anybody doing that in the marketplace at the moment. So that's what I did. I started writing my business plan for this small recruitment company. Funnily enough, it was called Think Smaller, so you're going from big four to smaller firms, and I got really carried away. You end up writing business cards and you do logos, you get a website designed, and all of a sudden I got this wave of enthusiasm where I thought, yes, I found it. And then it all comes crashing down because you have to walk into work after that period and say, here is my letter of resignation. Your heart is going like the clappers. And it's at that point where you start to doubt yourself and think, is this the right thing to do? What happens if it fails? Well, if it fails, at least you know more than you did beforehand. But you've made this choice. You've backed yourself. You've spoken to a few people. Seems like a good idea. You've just got to do it. So I did. I wrote my resignation letter. I pondered over it for a good few days. I wrote it as cleanly and as concisely as I could, and I wished all the best to the firm, and I said thank you for the opportunity, but it's time for me to move on. Once it became public knowledge across the firm, so many people came up to me and said, God, I'd love to do what you're doing. Really? It's easy. You just quit with nothing to go to. It's not that hard. I know. It is a bit flippant, but that's actually what happened. In telling you that I wrote my business plan, I'm trying to articulate that I told people I had more of a plan than I really did. Did I know what I was going to do? No. Did I know how I was going to do it? Not at all. Did I know it was the right thing? Absolutely. Why? Because the more I told people, the more it resonated and confirmed in my own mind it was the right thing to do. Quick tip. When you're talking to people about making big decisions, are you trying to convince yourself it's the right thing to do? Or are you trying to convince yourself it's the wrong thing to do? It might seem like a small nuance, but it's the big difference. One means that it is the right thing, but you're trying to talk yourself out of it. And the other one is saying actually it's the wrong thing, but you're trying to talk yourself into it. In your specific situation, you will quickly know, because this here, your heart, will tell you. So when the final day came around and I'd packed up all my things and I'd had a leaving speech and I walked out of the company for the last time, loosened the tie, went for a drink and just relaxed, how did it feel? Oh my word, it was amazing. I talk about the weight being lifted off the shoulders. It was just revelatory. Now, I don't mean to underplay it, and it's easier said than done, especially when you have less responsibilities. Like, we didn't have kids and we didn't have a mortgage. It was just me But I promise you, if you are able to make that change, it will be life-changing. If you say yes, something will change. And this was my example of saying yes. I decided that I didn't like what I was doing and I wanted to make that change. If you say no, nothing changes. You can't then complain that things haven't changed because you haven't done anything about it. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you're going to make the right decision because I don't have a crystal ball. But if you say yes, then something will change, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. And it just means you won't be staying where you are. That feeling of empowerment. I felt like a salmon swimming upstream. All of a sudden, I had time. I'd wake up on a Monday morning and think, what am I going to do? I phoned a friend of mine who started a computer company. We had a great chat over a Starbucks in Clapham Junction and talked about all of the possibilities. One thing led to another, and an idea began to blossom. And in actual fact, I vowed to go and research it the following day in the British Library. So I did, because I could. And then the following day, I'd read more and understand more, and I'd need to speak to somebody, and I'd go and do it the following day. I was the master of my own destiny. But I also learned a lot about myself. I find it really difficult to work for people that I'm not inspired by. But the biggest takeaway is that reassurance. In a world of imposter syndrome, where you are doubting yourself, you're feeling like somebody's just going to pull back the covers and realize that you're sat there and you don't know what you're talking about, or somebody's telling you you're not good enough, or you've just got the thoughts playing through your mind, a bit like The Chimp and the Chimp Paradox by Stephen Peters. Being able to say, no, I've got this, is massively empowering. Self-doubt is always going to be there, and there are always going to be people saying, is it a good thing to do? Now, even my mother said, why are you leaving a good job? And I was like, Mum, it might look like a good job, but I hate it. I'm really unhappy. If life outside of work is being made unhappy by life at work, then something's got to change. And you will know that if you get the dreaded Sunday evening blues, then really, is this what you want to be doing? There are always going to be constraints around life. We're going to have bills to pay. We're going to have responsibilities. There's always going to be reasons why not. But what about the reasons why? In much the same way Simon Sinek will say in Start With Why, if you've got a strong why, then people will buy into why you're doing it. You might need to have a good conversation with your partner, your other half, your husband, your wife, whoever it may be. But do you want to be happy? Do you want to be resentful? Do you want to think what if? Do you want to have a life full of regrets? So do it. I believe you can. That's the exciting part. So don't settle. Don't give up. Don't be stuck in a job that just doesn't fulfill you. Don't ignore those thoughts where you're thinking, what if? I wouldn't encourage you to quit with nothing to go to because that's not generally the greatest idea, but I would encourage you to take action. If you're not happy in what you're doing, then make a change. I quit my job with nothing to go to. I worked it out. I've seen people start their own businesses and become hugely successful by taking the leap. Now, as I sit here and record this, I am back working for another company. But it wouldn't have happened unless I'd had that time out to learn about myself, to take the opportunities that came along, and to change the direction of my career. But with that, I'm going to stop prattling on. I want to say thank you for watching. If you've liked this, please do watch this video about imposter syndrome. I think it will resonate. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.